First of all, I want to thank you that you're doing the effort and joining me into this session. I'll do my best to keep you interested. I don't know if entertained, but interested for sure. Just a little bit about myself. I am a software engineer, but as any software engineer that is also searching for its creative side, I also enjoy creating content from my experiences and discussing about things that maybe I would have liked to know at some point in my career. So also today's presentation is somehow circling around topics that I would have liked to know sooner in my career and to use these concepts before when I was struggling with the work, with the decisions that I was making. How many of you know this building? Okay, we have some people that visited Florence, so that it's nice. This is the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. I hope I'm pronouncing it okay. And it seems that it took over 142 years to be built, and approximately 4 million bricks. So that's a lot of work, right? So I wanted to either choose this building or another one that it was very, it impacted you and you were looking at it with, being very, very interested on how things worked and what was the effort put into building that. And I would like us to do an imagination exercise. Basically, think that you are in front of this building, marveling at its intersect design, right? Looking at how every piece, floor, windows, bricks, have been meticulously planned to fit into the overall structure, having a purpose of its own. Now let's think about the architect who designed this, 142 years. I'm sure there were several, but just imagine how they had to envision this, how they had to think not just how the building would look, but how it would stand the test of time, withstand storms, and serve its occupants for the decades to come. Or in this case, a lot of tourists. And I would like us to do the switch with software development. So basically, in our work, most of the time we are deeply engrossed in the tasks, trying to fix the bug, develop the feature, deploy it. So we don't have a lot of time to expand our perspective. So what if, instead of just looking at the work that we are doing today, we actually use the same vision, the same foresight, the same precision that these architects used for building these amazing cathedrals, skyscrapers that are still standing today and that we are so amazed by. So, just as an architect thinks about the life cycle of this building, from the moment when the building is built till the moment it is actually demolished eventually, in some cases, so should we think about the life cycle of the software that we are building. How will it evolve? How will it handle increasing demand? And how will it handle users for the years to come? And I want you to remember this analogy as you're not just writing code, you're building software skyscrapers. Because as programmers, we are saying, we are deeply engrossed in the task at hand, and it's hard to actually just sit outside of our software and look at it and understand the whole context. When building a house, if you try to create 10,000 windows to it, or doors, something it's like, something is not okay, right? It's a house, why so many windows, how so many doors, what is happening in there? But in software, we don't have the same limitations. We don't have the same capacity to know when something is coming our way, that, to have some matured limitation that we can use as a guide. So we are experimenting all the time. We have the freedom and flexibility to even paint the walls before actually building the structure and the walls themselves. And even though this flexibility, it's a good thing, because, keeps us interested, the energy is very good. Also, it can lead to very bad results. And we can see it. We can see it in our daily work. We can see it on how the projects around us develop. So despite this freedom, when it comes to the way we are thinking about software, we are not that open-minded, right? Even though sometimes we are looking a bit outside the box, still we are standing with the patterns, the standard methods that we know and that we think that in the past worked so well, rarely going outside the limits of what we know. So reflection is crucial for growth and for development. Yet, we are resistant to acknowledging when we don't really know something, when we don't really understand something. And this takes a lot of time and anxiety, and I'm sure that many of you have situations right now going on when you have to fix something or you have to make a decision and you're not really sure if that's the right way to go. So spending a lot of time into this circle, and even when we realize that maybe the path that we are working on, it's not really the good one, still we, instead of taking responsibility for our decisions, we are actually blaming external factors, like that guy did not set up the servers how it should, or that person did not really work on the pipelines the way it should. So always trying to look from another perspective instead of actually looking out at ourselves and the way we are doing decisions. So this is where I want to bring you today, to open your mind and be honest about the way you are thinking about the problems that you are solving every day, the way you are making decisions, and the way that you are looking at failures or at the mistakes that you are doing. How many of you have ever thought about what kind of mindset do you have? Thinking of mindset as, the abilities that shape the way we see our work, our skills, our potential for growth. Have you ever thought about this? How am I looking at things? Am I fixed? Do I have a growth mindset? Anyone? I saw a hand in there. So we have someone that is putting some work into this. I hope that at the end of this presentation we are going to have more hands on, but yeah, let's see. So if you've ever thought about software like, or the work that you're doing, okay, this is something that I'll never understand. This is very complex, it's not something that I can do. You're tapping into a fixed mindset. Basically, you think that your skills and your intelligence is something that cannot be developed. You're either good at something or you're not. You either know something or you're not. And we can see this in developers when we are discussing about the way they embrace new ideas, patterns, feedback, very important also in the area of feedback. But also the way that they are accepting challenges, because most of the time we shy away from challenges and more complex things because we think that failing on that might expose our limitations. On the other side, of course, we have the growth mindset, where we see every failure as an opportunity, right? Feedback, amazing. I'm interested in hearing feedback. I'm interested in actually growing. And to give a more exact example in this area, in this book by Matthew Syed, The Black Box Thinking, there is a comparison actually made between two fields, aviation industry and medical field. And on one side, we have the aviation industry that is using the black box or the flight data recorder as a symbol for being interested in acknowledging the failures that they are doing, trying to understand from them, and actually working towards avoiding them in the future. In the medical field whatsoever, we have a more fixed mindset. Yeah, it's an example of an environment where mistakes are being concealed and ignored. On one side, because there is this fear of, facing legal consequences. On the other side, because it's the reputation factor that they have to take into account. So it seems that when compared the two, we can see a big difference in the evolution in terms of time and the way things have been improved in certain periods of time. So I invite you, even though before you were not really, your shying away of raising the hand, I invite you, and not to raise the hand, but more like to think about yourself and see exactly where you identify more. And be honest, because it's just a thing that you need to have with yourself. But why am I proposing this? It's because the way we are looking at our skills, at our abilities, at the task that we're having, so the lens through which we are looking at everything that we are doing, it's actually shaping the results and the effects of the decisions that we are making in time. And I have a question for you now. Have you ever been very excited about something? And, or maybe you had a very good joke, and you went to someone very happy, trying to tell them the joke or that idea, that amazing idea that you just learned, and they are like, oh, I know what you are trying to say. Like, even from the beginning of your sentence, even from the beginning of your idea, they're like, no, I know, it's okay. And they're blocking you completely. Have you ever been in that situation? Yeah. And you want to punch them? No? No? Like, come on, I'm excited about this. I want to share it with you, and what are you doing? Even though this might give us the sense of, okay, I'm so smart, and I know everything, and I don't have to listen to all this nonsense. I don't have time for this. I have to move further. Actually, this is something that it's working against us, because when we think that we know it all, we stop exploring what's really different. Yeah. Also, this shows laziness in thinking, because we are not making the effort of digging deeper. But think about this. I'm sure that at least in one situation, you started a book a while ago, right? And the book was not very catchy from your perspective at the time. It wasn't interesting. You did not understood a lot from it. And then years later, with other experiences and other ways of thinking about life and about the concepts that you're reading, you find that book revealing. And it's the same text, right? Same text, a different perspective. So basically, I invite you for this session, for the rest of the day, to open your minds. Even though something seems like you already know it, you might be surprised by how you can wrap your head around ideas and actually go home with something to apply on Monday or tomorrow, but you know who starts something new on Fridays. And I want us to look at our work again and think about what's our approach when it comes to the way we are starting the day every day with the work that we're having. And to give you a bit of context, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you more stories today, but I'll start with one that I heard a while ago in a student organization. I give credits to whoever first said this story. But it goes like this. One day, a man was going towards a hill, and he sees a lot of people that were breaking stones. And he got curious about that, and went on and asked the first one, "What are you doing in here?" And of course, the first one was very focused, just as we are in our tasks, right? And with the work, like, don't bother me, I have Pomodoro on. So anyway, he answers, even though it was a bit bothered, and say, "I'm breaking stones." But our man, the one that asked the question, still wasn't satisfied. So he went on to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one, until at some point he found someone that was excited to actually have a conversation about it, and he said, "I'm building a castle." So what I'm trying to tell you is that sometimes, of course, as developers, are professional in general, we go through periods when we are just breaking stones, and we don't care about the product that much, and we don't care about what the other colleague is doing. We are just doing, I'm doing my work. I'm not interested, 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it. And then on the other side, we have developers that are building castles. And we go through this. Sometimes we are building castles, sometimes we are breaking stones. And of course, factors are a lot of external factors. Maybe we are not in the right project. Maybe it's not the right context, the right colleagues. We don't like the project that much, but yeah, there is no choice in the market, or we are burnt out. So there are a lot of reasons. But what if we, as I was telling you before, right, stop trying to find reason in the outside and look at our skills and the way we are looking at things and the way we are thinking. And the way to actually find satisfaction with your work is to actually know exactly where you are. And the circle of competence is a mental model that encourages us to look at our skills, look at our abilities, and try to understand exactly where we are, like analyze a bit the context in which we are. So you start small, from inside towards outside. First, we look at the skills that we are having, right? What are the main things that I'm interested in software? What are the things that really excite me, where I can give very good results? Yeah. And when it comes to the project that I'm working with, I try to use that particular set of skills in order to deliver quality, be confident about it, and also receive feedback, yeah, because this helps me a lot with confidence, to have good feedback and people to appreciate my work. But then, slowly, as you are trying to extend step by step your knowledge or your expertise, you go just outside the circle and try to experiment with other topics, right? Of course, you need maybe some mentoring, you need some practice, you need some goals for you in order to see exactly where are you going. So you're building step by step until you put it again into the inside circle, right, where you're very sure about your skills, and move on to the next one. And this is a circular process that we are working with. But there are two things that we have to be very careful. The first one, it's thinking sometimes that just because we know something that is slightly similar with the technology that we're working with, maybe, to think that we know that, we understand that just because it's similar to something that we know. And actually, there are studies in this area, and a cognitive bias appeared out of these studies, which is the Dunning-Kruger effect, that tells us that very often people that are less experienced in a certain area and have less skills have the tendency to overestimate their skills, while the people that are actually, very good in a certain area and have the skills to actually give an estimation, they are underestimating their skills. So I'm sure that anyone in this room has been in the situation where you maybe gave an estimation to something, and someone from outside the team came and said, I don't think this is the right estimation. Think about it again. Let's see if it's the right one. Let's see if it's the correct one. And there is not a bad thing to be challenged, but also think about the moment where you are doing the estimation. When you are taking that decision, when you are speaking up, are you really aware of the skills? Do you have the skills to actually talk about that subject? The second thing that we need to be very careful with is related to the mental limits that we are putting on ourselves. For example, and this is just an example, don't think about the technology that I'm mentioning. If I'm thinking about myself, I'm a .NET developer. I'm kind of stuck. All my focus is going to go into the .NET side. When I'm coming to a conference, I'm going to look the sessions that involve some kind of .NET, because this is how I'm wearing the blinkers, I'm looking at .NET. If I'm thinking about myself, okay, I'm a developer that is working with .NET, suddenly I can do so much more. Suddenly when a technology it's getting deprecated, I can immediately go to the next one, because I have a basis that is not only based on the technology that I've been using in the last years. Yeah? I'm interested in more than just the technology that I'm using at this moment. So the circle of competence is not just about assessing your skills, but it's a tool for growth. Keeps you always in the loop of learning, and not only that it makes you efficient or effective when it comes to the results in our project, but more like helps us to make better decisions, more informed decisions, and be a more impactful developer, because in the end, this is what keeps us satisfied and keeps us wanting to build castles instead of just breaking stones. And in this area of how we are looking on on the decisions that we are making, some years ago, I discovered this book that I really, really enjoy, and a lot of, or some of the information that we are going to discuss today, it's also in this book, but also mental models in general are, you know, a very wide topic. This is not the only book. There are several books, but yeah, I think that this one had the most touching mental models for software development. But what I liked even more in this book, it's bringing 3 concepts to discussion. So it's bringing perspective. It's very important to be aware of the perspective that we're having. It's bringing the ego, which we know in software in general, we have a lot of ego, yeah? So we need to understand when we are not really confident and when things are not working very well, to ask for help and to understand when we did a mistake, to recognize it and try to find solutions. And then we have the decision from the distance that we have from the consequences of the decisions that we are making. And this usually happens in big companies when, you know, if I'm writing something, some code that is not okay, and something happens in production, if there are a lot of layers, most probably they're not going to track me down, so I won't know that I did a mistake. You know, we will know that it's in that area, yeah? So most probably, next time I will do the same mistake. And then my colleague will see this also, and he will do the same. If it works, why not? We're not refactoring this right now because it works in our company, it's okay. And you know, it's this concept of broken window effect in urban environments, where one little window left unrepaired, it's inviting even more damage, and it becomes even worse than before. So happens with our processes, with our code, with the way we are doing our work on a daily basis or making decisions. Going a bit further in the perspective part, when we are relying on just one way of working, on one way of thinking, we are missing the whole picture. For example, you know, in school we are learning about math, then we are moving to biology, then we are moving to psychology. So we are keeping them very well separated and defined. But in real life, things don't work like that. In order to be able to create a context and to make the most creative decisions, we need to have a full picture. The world doesn't work like this is only biology, like I'm only biology right now. No, I'm a lot of other factors, yeah, happening. I'm some psychology, I have some biology, yes, some physics. So a lot of things that are interconnected, and we need to understand this complexity. Also, I think many of you know that quote with, to the man with only hammer, everything looks like a nail. Not everything is a nail. Yeah. We need to switch a bit the way we are looking at things and open our minds to new ideas. And this is what we are doing now. How many of you heard, are fans of Charlie Munger? He was a business person and a great thinker, let's say. He was also very interested in this area of mental models, but his way of thinking was defined as the Swiss Army knife approach. Why? Because he considered that he has to have a lot of mental models and a lot of insights from different domains, just as we are having tools in our Swiss Army knife. You know, if I need a special tool for a special problem, I have the solution just in there at my hand, so I know what I'm working with. And the same way we can look also at our environment. For example, we have a team, right? And then from the outside, we have a developer, a CEO, and maybe someone from finance. Each person is going to look at that team from a different perspective. And no perspective is the wrong one, but they are missing the whole picture, right? The developer is going to look at like, oh my God, we have so much to do, we don't have specifications, what we are going to do. Then we have the CEO that expects results, what is happening, why aren't we have results? And then we have the financial that is taking care and seeing exactly if they have the money to increase the team, we have to decrease it, and so on. So different perspective, none it's 100% valid in the end. Also, you can add to this the confirmation bias, where we are actively looking for information that is validating what we already know. So this keeps us blind to other perspectives and other views. You're going to maybe think, okay, what does this have to do with us? We are working in software, we are running code, smart. Why are we discussing so much philosophy? How many of you know the Yellow Book or read it? We have in there some hands. How many of you know the White and Blue book and read it? More hands. Of course, we are at a coding conference, right? So that makes sense. Well, let's discuss a bit about the yellow one. Christopher Alexander, that is the author of this book, a pioneering architect, a building architect, has introduced through this book the concept of patterns. Patterns, of course, reusable solutions for recurring problems. While this worked amazingly in architecture, these same ideas had a very big impact in software development through the introduction of design patterns, tools that developers are using in order to create scalable, maintainable software and have their code organized and so on. So in the 1990s, these four guys, the Gang of Four, adapted these ideas that came from Alexander's book in order to create the book that we are using, right, and we are reading and we are looking at when it comes to making decisions in our software. So Alexander's ideas demonstrate the power of drawing information from different domains, right? Just by looking at how we can use the ideas from urban planning, biology, psychology, from architecture to actual software. So the most innovative solutions come from looking at the problem from a different perspective. Then another mental model that I think that it works very well and that sometimes we are not aware of, works very well in software, is the map is not the territory. And this mental model says that our blueprints and our diagrams, no matter how specific we are doing them, cannot actually lead us perfectly to the end results, and that they represent only, something abstract, and it's not really working, or it's not giving us an idea of how the product is working in production. This is a map that I've been using just as a test, just to show exactly, I was putting, okay, from Copo to Agora, how much time we are going to spend, what is going to happen in there, how things are going to be working, are going to be delays, and so on. This shows 16 minutes, right? Amazing. It shows us also that we have, the streets that we are going through, also the other places around it, and so on. So everything seems like it's, the road is okay, we are going to get there in 16 minutes. If I go, I zoom in a bit, I get maybe some more details, but not enough details to tell me about a person that is crossing the street illegally, or that at some point, because of an accident, the traffic is not like that anymore. So it's only giving me some information, not the whole information. Then we are looking a bit even more into it, right? Again, more details, not enough. It's not telling me anything about the potholes that I saw on the way, for example, right? I cannot get prepared for that. The same happens in software. I have the map, which is a high-level diagram that I can work with, that is giving me components and interactions and the data flows. But then I have the territory, what is happening in production, the unforeseen challenges, the performance bottlenecks that I cannot see on a diagram. I can think of them, but I can't really see them. So these diagrams are as good as, or as precise as we want them to be, and they are giving the information as much as we, again, want them to be. So no new information when using a map or a diagram platform and blueprint and so on. So by understanding this mental model, we are building with flexibility in our minds, always being one step ahead from the challenges that we might encounter. But how exactly can we get more information in these maps? Because you're going to say, okay, but we are not building diagrams anymore. We are not working with software anymore just because we don't have the whole information. Can we do something about it? Yes, we can. I was telling you that I'm going to tell you a story, so here's another one. The story goes that when the British colonial government in Delhi wanted to get rid of cobras, they created a bounty program where they said, okay, we are going to pay you if you are bringing the dead snake, we are going to pay you. And in the beginning, this worked very, very well. But as the program advanced, there were some enterprising individuals that thought, but how about if we breed snakes, kill them, and bring them in for the reward? I'm guessing that worked good for a while, but the government found out, and they stopped the program. But they did not think about the fact that in the moment that they are going to stop this program, what is going to happen? All the snakes in the streets, because no one saw the point of keeping the breeded snakes. So the problem became even worse than before. What weren't they doing at that time? They were not having the second order thinking. And this is a mental model that encourages us to look beyond the immediate consequences of our actions. Actually, to look at the impact that they have further and to analyze even the ripple effects of our decisions. How we are doing this? Let's take an example. Let's say Black Friday is coming, right? So let's think about the fact that we are building an e-commerce platform. And of course, first order thinking, it's around features, right? Functional features, what am I going to build, what is going to happen in there, and so on. So I'm building payment, listing, user management, all this. Maybe I'm also thinking about performance. I want to, I'm giving the user a very good user experience, right, when I'm working a bit with performance. But if I'm looking a bit more into the details, and I'm asking questions, the right questions, of course, in the beginning won't be the right questions, but after some digging, we are going to discover other concerns, like scalability, like security, fault tolerance, and so on. So we are going a bit deeper into in the concerns that our product should have in order to be prepared for something that is going to happen either in the future or actually in the moment we are going to release this to production. So blind spots in our thinking are being exposed by asking questions, looking beyond the obvious. And I'm sure that you're going to say, yeah, but we are thinking about this in our projects. Are you actively thinking about this? Or you are just thinking because you did it in another project before and you think like, this worked before, so I'm just going to use it. Are you really using it for the product that you are working with? Or you're just using it because this is what you know how to do? Don't answer. And the tricky part is that sometimes blind spots can appear even in a moment when we are very absorbed and in love with our work. And lucky for us, there is a mental model that can get us out of this. The story with the two fishes that were swimming, and then another fish comes from the other direction, and he asks, "Good morning, guys, how's the water?" And they keep fishing, they keep swimming, and one looks at the other at some point, and he's like, what the hell is water? You cannot make decisions for a system that you don't truly understand, that you don't understand how it works. It's like having blind spots when we are driving our car. It happened to me, I'll never forget that. I was just sure, I have all these mirrors, everything is okay, I have it under control, but somehow there was this blind spot that I did not knew about until actually having the situation happening. What I'm trying to say is that we have a lot of situations where we need to understand that the outcomes, the decisions that we are making are based on context and perspective. And my all-time favorite example for this is when we are using or trying to use a new technology. How everyone is like, new thing on the market? This is going to save me. This is going to save all my problems. I remember some years ago, there was this debate, Angular versus React. no, .NET versus what was Java. Which one is the best? Which one is the best? Which one is the best for what? What's the context in which you are trying to work with that? Think about the skills in your team. Is one or the other a good fit? Think about the requirements of your project. Is that going to help you or actually bring more effort on your side? And think about the timelines that you're having. Do you have time for the team to actually learn a new technology, or you can use what you already have and you are going to get the same results? You know, it's not just about finding the best something. It's about understanding, for our case, what are the skills, the requirements, the timeline that you have to work with. So determining the context in which we are making the decision. Then, when discussing about things being absolute, right? You know how we have a lot of articles that are 10 steps for becoming successful, 10 steps for having the best relationship, for being the best developer. I'm not even saying how many titles we find like this. Like, there are over 10 times ways of becoming the best developer. But why don't we ever look on things like, I want to find something, you know, a title that says 10 ways in which you can actually destroy your project because you're not making the best solutions, but the best decisions, but you're thinking that you're bringing the best solutions. I would like to see this. I would like to see a book about this. And I would like us all to read it before entering software development. But yeah, enough about my personal expectations. Let's go back to mental model. So we have the inversion mental model that challenges us to, you know, instead of looking for success and brilliance, more like switch the focus on trying to avoid the mistakes that we might be doing. And I'm curious right now, are you using chaos engineering in your projects? Anyone? So chaos engineering, it's a practice that works very good with this inversion mental model because it's introducing willingly failures in our systems. So basically, instead of thinking, okay, I want it to be the most performant, a lot of uptime, everything to work very smoothly, I'm thinking, what could go wrong? And then I can stop servers randomly or introduce some performance issues during uptime, just to see exactly how my system is handling these sorts of failures. In this case, I'm opening myself more to those blind spots that we are discussing about. Because if I'm only focusing on what I know I have like 5 ways in which I think the system could be performant, so I'll just focus on them. I don't have any new information. And production is bringing a lot of new information. So I have to always try to understand more about production and what things could go wrong. So we can do this by focusing on the bad things that could happen, not the good things that I want to happen. You know, it's like being in a relationship. Like, when I'm thinking, I want to make my partner happy, I'll look the ways in which I can make him very happy. No, I'm better thinking, okay, how about I do the things, I stop doing the things that I know that annoys him. You know, voila, best relationship ever. For more details on this part, I can give counseling outside if you'd like. But for the moment, let's go back to software development, because that's why we gathered here today. An interesting fact, besides all the interesting facts that we already discussed, is that we often think in this domain that the more something is, you know, the more complex something is, the more interesting it is. The more hard to understand it, the more we want to understand it, because this gives us purpose. You know, we are trying to build knowledge on things that not everyone understands easily. We need to feel that we are a part. So we are doing also this in the decisions that we're making when it comes to our code base. Of course, I could use, you know, the easiest way to do a form validation, but I'm smart. 4 years of university are not just, you know, like that. I learned something, so I'm going to show them so that they appreciate me. And we are doing, this is a mistake. This is the wrong way to look at things. Because Occam's razor suggests us that in the moment when we are having multiple solutions for a problem, the starting point is usually the simple solution. I remember that I think it happened to me at least 20 times, 30 times this over time. You know, when something comes from production, and oh my God, users are complaining and things are working very slowly. What should we do? And someone is like, I think it's something from the server. Or someone else, no, it's a third party that we need to work with. I'm sure that introduced a lot of complexity. But sometimes we are lucky enough to have developers in our teams that actually worked with Occam's razor, and they are, how about we did something bad with the last change that we did in code? And voila. They go, they look into that particular part, they fix, everything is okay, everyone is going early on a Friday, right? Not staying to investigate something that might not lead anywhere. So, lesson, always start with a simple part. Always start with the simple solution, because you are going to gain time. It might not be the best solution. Maybe it's not that the answer, but you are not wasting time in trying to, entangle a complex situation. Trying it step by step with the simple ones, unless there is a compelling reason, of course, for which we are going with the complex. Maybe you know for sure that you did a bad server configuration. Like you're going in there, you don't start looking into the code. Are we okay? Yeah. Thank you. So, as we are moving a bit towards the end of the discussion, I want you to think about the fact that it's not about knowing the most mental models. There are a lot of fields that we can work with, and that they can bring us a lot of benefits. It's not only about knowing them. I know 100 mental models. No, I know 120. That's not the point. The first thing that we need to do is to be honest about our limitations. Be honest about the mistakes that we are doing and we are repeating while being so confident that we know what we are doing. Like always you have that question on the back of your head thinking, is this really the right way to go? Or am I doing this just mechanically because I did it before and it worked for a couple of times, so I'm just going to try it out even though it's not the right fit? Also, we are discussing right now about this AI area, right? And I hear a lot this concern of, oh, AI is going to replace developers. In 5 years, what's developers? Get creative, start painting, doing whatever, something else. Don't do development anymore, it's not for the future. How about we use the things that make us very valuable, as our mental models, the way we are looking at problems, with, with our minds that we have as humans, and add to this the tools that are going to help us with the repetitive tasks and have even better results. So instead of being scared about what's coming up, how about we get creative in ways in which we can become valuable to the industry that we are working with? Because of course, technologies and tools, they are valuable and they are helping us a lot. But what truly has impact is our mind and the way we are looking at the work that we're doing, the problems that we're having, the challenges that we have to deal with. So my advice to you today is don't just break stones, build castles. Thank you.